What's up YouTube? Today I got a Walther firearm here on the channel. Now this isn't my firearm, it's on loan from my brother-in-law. He's here with me and he's going to go over some of the schematics of this firearm and tell you more in depth about it. But it is a Walther PPS.
Walther Firearms has set an industry standard for almost 100 years in reliability and quality, and the Walther PPS certainly lives up to those standards. The PPS stands for Police Pistol Slim. It's made in the Ulm factory in Germany, and this would be probably considered the M1 version of the PPS because now there's an M2. This one would be made between 2007 and 2015, and it comes in right about $400 used. Now you might be thinking Walther PPS, that's probably the James Bond gun, right? Well, you'd be half right actually, because the Walther PPK is actually the traditional James Bond gun, whereas the Walther P99 is sometimes used by James Bond, and I think maybe once in the comic books the PPQ was used or something like that, but never the PPS actually. It's meant for concealment. So it's about 1 inch wide, about 5 inches tall, and about 6 inches long with a 3.2 inch barrel. But what changes its dimensions a little bit, so it gives it a little bit of adjustability depending on the person, is the magazine. So you can have a 6-round magazine, a 7-round magazine, or an 8-round magazine in the 9mm, but if you go with the 40 cal, it goes only up to 7 rounds. And so the different magazines actually change the size of the overall gun in height, so that depending upon how you want to conceal the gun and how you want it to be comfortable on your fingers, allows you to have that flexibility. So once you go up to the 7-round magazine, it adds a little bit more onto the pinky, whereas once you go fully onto the 8-round magazine, you get a full 4-fingered grip here. But that actually leads into one of the first complaints about this firearm, and that's its size. It doesn't fit everybody's hand perfectly because everybody has a different size hand. So one of the ways that Walther tries to compensate for different hand sizes is this back strap right here actually. This is an interchangeable back strap. It comes in small, medium, and large sizes so that you can find one that fits your hand the most comfortably. But about the magazine, one of the first things that people notice about this, the Walther PPS here, is that in order to release the magazine, if you look next to its 6-pound trigger here, right at the trigger guard, which is hopefully where you find the trigger guard, right next to the trigger, there's actually a little paddle right here. And that paddle lever is actually how you release the magazine. Now that's going to be quite different for a lot of people who are used to the standard American style push button release. But the reason that they do this is it makes it ambidextrous. So you can easily release the magazine if you're right-handed or left-handed. But what some people find is it's actually a little cumbersome to get in there because it's a smaller gun. So it might defeat its own purpose, but some people actually really like that, like me. The magazines themselves are actually extremely well built. But one of the complaints about the magazine is if you compare this to another, again, a standard American style handgun, the build almost looks backwards. So a lot of people who use this for the first time, they actually try to put this in backwards, whereas it's meant to have a larger groove on the front right here so that it can adjust for your grip, so your pinkies can fit, your pinky or your fourth finger can fit on there more easily. But consistently though, for those who use Walther, generally really like their Walther, and it's well known for its ergonomics. So the grip is one of the most comfortable grips that a lot of people find on a handgun. And it's actually angled at such a position that a lot of people also find, compared to their other handguns, that it gets right on target at a natural angle, a more natural angle compared to a lot of other handguns. And as you can see here on the grip, it has a unique type of texturing so that it's a non-slip grip. And you'll notice on the front here, it actually has a Picatinny rail system. So that allows for aftermarket accessories like a flashlight or a laser. And then another major design feature of the gun is actually something that it's missing. So a lot of people are used to a manual safety on the gun. This does not have a manual safety. But what that does is it really emphasizes proper technique and proper training. So first off, you never point the gun at something you don't want to possibly shoot. And the other thing is you keep your finger off the trigger unless you are ready to pull the trigger. Although the Walther PPS doesn't have a manual safety, which actually a lot of people don't want a manual safety because it's just one more thing on the gun that could go wrong. If you're in a high tense situation or you're pulling it out from the holster and you don't know, you want to pull the trigger and you want it to fire when you're ready to fire. What Walther has done to work around that is they've added other safety features onto the gun. And the first one that stands out to most people is there's a striker indicator on the back of the gun. So you can actually see it while it's still holstered. It's a tiny little red dot. And what that does is it indicates whether or not the slide has been racked and the gun is actually now half cocked. And then once you pull the trigger, it's going to complete it to a full cock and then release the firing pin. Second safety feature on the gun is right down here in the middle of the slide is actually a loaded chamber indicator. There's a tiny little gap in the slide, a little hole, so that if you're looking through it and it's black, it's hollow, there's nothing in there, you just see, I guess, mechanical parts, the chamber's not loaded. Whereas if you can actually see some brass, then you know that there's a bullet in the chamber and it's ready to be fired. So if that striker indicator on the back is red, you better not touch that trigger unless you want it to shoot. And another safety feature on the Walther PPS is built right into the trigger. It's a trigger safety that actually serves multiple functions. The first one would be is that you cannot pull the trigger all the way back unless it's being pulled from the middle of the trigger. So if something catches on the sides, let's say you're holstering it and something just rubs up against the side of the trigger, then the firearm's not going to discharge while you're trying to holster it unless it goes through that safety bar right there in the middle of the trigger. Another function that it serves is if you were to drop the gun cannot accidentally discharge because that trigger has to be pulled all the way back in order for the mechanisms inside the gun to actually release the firing pin. These are low profile, high contrast paint coated sights that are actually compatible with the P99 Walther and also with aftermarket tritium night sights. Field stripping this firearm is actually very simple. First, release the magazine, make sure that the chamber is not loaded, and then you have to depress the striker. From there, you pull on the two tabs on the sides of the, just beneath the slide, and then the slide will come right forward. So from here, you can take out the spring and the barrel. Ooh, just cut myself. What the heck is going on here?
So Will cut himself on, I'm guessing one of these sharp edges. So I'm gonna reassemble it for him, all right? Put it back together. Make sure that's all the way seated like that. Take it in like this. And watch that spring. Make sure it doesn't come out. And it's back together.
And then once you get to the inside of the gun, you're actually going to notice that there's probably not a whole lot of corrosion inside of there. That's because it's Tennifer coated, and it's Tennifer coated really well. Now, my gun I bought used, and it actually came with quite a bit of wear on it, but I've noticed since I've had it for 3 years there hasn't been much more wear added onto it. So what that Tenifer coating does is on all the metal parts inside of the Walther PPS, it actually soaks into the metal just a little bit to protect them from corrosion or wear. And actually I bought this firearm about 3 years ago, and it came with some noticeable wear on the metal parts, but since then I haven't noticed any advanced wearing on the firearm. As I mentioned, this is actually maybe potentially referred to as an M1 PPS, and that's because it was made between the years 2007 and 2015. So as of 2016, Walther has released what they call the M2 PPS. What's changed in that is that the grip is styled much more similar to the PPQ, which everybody rants and raves about its ergonomics. It removed the Picatinny rail system, and it actually got rid of the paddle magazine release, which a lot of American users complain about.
All right. Well, this isn't my firearm, so I really can't go into depth like Will did, but I can say some things that I don't like about the firearm. Just before you think it's all negative, I do like how this firearm feels. I'm not a big fan of a thinner grip. I actually really don't like the way it feels when you're firing a thinner grip, but it's not bad for what it is. The trigger's a little hard. I've been spoiled by 1911s, so, you know, I really do like the sights. They're very visible, not hard to pick up. When you pick one of these things up, you can definitely tell it's quality made. I mean, it's a very high quality feeling gun, but there are some things about it I do not like. Like Will said, a lot of people that are used to the push button mag release is not gonna like this little paddle release. And I don't, because as a range toy, it's not that big of a deal, but I could see it if I was in a high tense situation, I was pulling this out and I had to do a mag release. I could see myself reaching for that button without thinking about it, because I shoot so many guns that have that release on it that's intuitive for me. And so I could see it taking away a lot of valuable time to release that magazine. But I do like pretty much everything on this firearm. I mean, besides the magazine. Now, like Will said, most magazines, the mass is in front of the magazine. And I can't tell you how many times I put this in backwards. While he was saying that, he was referring mostly to me, because I did that quite frequently, because I'm used to a magazine that's shaped differently. Also, I saw him do it, and I've done it one time where you insert the mag and you pinch your hand in it. Now, it's shaped to try to get your hand away from that, but I've noticed that if you're not watching, you can easily pinch your hand in it. I'm doing it right now where it's rubbing against it.
Oh, ow. Got caught, I pinched my hand.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video. tell me down below if you like this kind of video, and we're definitely going to steal Will for more of these kind of videos. So put something down in the comments if you'd like to see something in a future video. So hope you guys enjoyed the video.